Very simply, I study lightning. Turns out that, despite the great work by Benjamin Franklin, lightning remains a mystery. We really don't understand a lot of very basic things about it. I found out it was just sort of an overlooked problem in science with all the big questions unanswered. And, for a scientist, that's great. You want to go after the big questions. Lightning strikes the planet millions of times a day and often starts right over our heads, but it's very difficult to get up inside the thunderstorm where all this stuff is happening, where lightning's initiated. So we need to measure other things. We measure radio waves coming out of lightning, and we can infer how it's starting and how it moves. And one area that I spend a lot of time working in is we measure X-rays and gamma rays coming out of thunderstorms, and that probes what's happening with the discharge.
Joe has a way of always finding the right questions to ask and looking at the really kind of fundamental things that make things interesting science projects. And he also has a way of just sort of guiding you in the right direction. He's an amazing guy. He's an excellent scientist. He knows how to put things together in ways that other people might not see.
He has very good physics intuition, and he can use very simple analogies to illustrate complex physics concepts and also problems. I think that's made him very successful in reaching out to the public.
Everybody's interested in lightning. Everybody has a lightning story. There was a lot of interest in the media. Newspapers, magazines, TV and stuff. And so I got used to trying to explain this at a very simple level. And I think over the years, this really helped with my teaching to be able to take complicated things and bring it down to a level where people can understand it.
Taking that cylinder.
You can ask my students, I tend to be very energetic. I run around, a lot of professors use lecture demos. I'm the lecture demo. I will wave my arms and run around, and I will be the projectile and the projectile motion, things like that. Enthusiasm is contagious, right? And so I'm interested, I love this subject, and I think I can convey that to the students.
I think Joe's research publications are top class. He is extremely creative, and his work is always very original and has produced a transformational impact in our field. That's why I think he deserves this award.
I'm very honored. I was really surprised, actually. I wasn't expecting it. It's great. I'm very proud to be here at UNH, and it's a great honor.